Welcome to The Real Look. I'm Bruce Hardy.
And I'm Chase Williams.
I'm so excited to introduce this episode's Northern Lights guest, Todd Duitsman with Keller Williams North Sound in Marysville, Washington. Todd is one of the top 100 agents in the Keller Williams Northwest region, serving his clients at the highest level for 13 years now. He not only inspires us, but he is living proof that by shifting your focus to the simple act of connecting with humans, you can make an impact in people's lives through home ownership. We get into his transition from working construction to getting his real estate license to building his team of 4 at H2H, crediting his successful journey to hard work and accountability. Please enjoy this conversation with Todd Duitsman. Well, g'day, Todd. Welcome to The Real Look. Where does today's podcast find you?
Marysville, Washington.
Marysville, Washington, north of Seattle.
Yep.
Well, Todd, we all have a story, a life before real estate. So what were you doing before you got into real estate?
I had been building homes and remodeling and developing property. That's my main course. I'd worked for Harbor Homes and then went off on my own, started my own cabinet business, and then went into, like I said, remodeling, home building, developing property. And then it all washed out in 2009, 10, 11. The economy had a little bit of a burp.
A burp is a mild way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, big burp.
Yeah.
Big burp. So what caused you to get into real estate?
2000, must have been 2008 or 2009. I remember going to my banker, and I think I was going backwards about $8,000 or $9,000 a month. I had been buying some properties and was starting to build and was going great guns in 2006 and 7 and excited about life and made a couple purchases. And then I cross-collateralized my house. And so I remember it must have been 2008, 2009. I'm trying to sell everything I have. I've got lots that appraise at $235 and, the bank was taking it back at $75,000. And so it was just going down in a tailspin. I had 20 acres over by the freeway, and I went over to the freeway, I went over the property, and I hired a real estate agent to sell the properties. And every time somebody was going to show up, I showed up as well, because while the real estate agent, kind of like the chicken and the pig, the chicken just has they lay eggs and move on. Well, the pig, it's a full deal. So you're sacrificing everything. So I'm there literally with the people, walking them through the remodel. I'm walking them through the lot line adjustment. I'm walking them through we got wetlands on it, everything. And all of a sudden I'm realizing I'm talking to the real estate agents, and I realize that I know more than the real estate agent does. Now, my people skills were not that good because I'd been construction guy and worker guy. And yet all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm going backwards $8,000 or $9,000 a month. I've never really done the math on what a real estate agent makes. And I asked him, and this must have been 2009. I said, well, how many houses are you selling? And they said, well, we're selling about 1 a month. And I did the math real quick and realized, oh, boy, I'm working my tail off to not even can't make that kind of money. I'm in crawl spaces. I'm doing, when you pull into Home Depot and there's 4 cars, you know that there's something wrong with the economy. And so I remember pulling into Home Depot and thinking, wow, we are screwed because there's 4 cars here. And so anyhow, regardless, I'm there with those real estate agents. I'm really not realizing that I know more than they do. And I think, wow, I just need to brush up on my people skills. And I bet you I can bury this because I can outwork anybody. So just show me the shovel and I can dig just as long as you can. So it took me, I had a couple big remodels I was finishing up. And I think it took me 3 or 4, months. And I think by 2010, January 1st, I was ready to go. I'd finished up my remodels, and I think the first year I sold, 4 pieces of property. And then the next year, I think it was 12. And then it jumped up a little bit more, and then it jumped up a little bit more. And then obviously I had a couple of things set me back in life in 2014, but it's been an unbelievable trade. I love this business. I love the game of it. And anyhow, so that's kind of how I got into real estate. I was forced into it, and I couldn't pick a better vocation.
Yep.
Besides maybe being a pastor. That's about it.
Interesting, right? So you get out of the building business because it's a tough market. By the way, it was a tough market in real estate too at that time.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you get those first 4 deals?
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no concept of what was going on, except for I had interviewed 3 different places to get my license, to hang my license. I'd gone to Century 21. I think I'd gone to John L. Scott and maybe Windermere. And somebody told me, hey, Todd, what you need to do is go to Keller Williams because they're going to educate you like nobody's business the first few years. And then after that, you can go ahead and, once you figure it out, you can leave and go to some other company. So I go to Keller Williams, and the other piece of advice is they said, hey, Todd, when you walk into the actual establishment, if it feels good to you, it's probably going to feel good to somebody else. A gal named Sandy was at the Keller Williams office in Marysville. I walked in there and I felt at home. Like I said, I'd walked into 3 other places and just didn't feel, exactly correct. And Sandy, I remember she says to me, Todd, she goes, oh, there's a bus going down next week to listen to this guy named Gary Keller speak at the DoubleTree. And I'm sitting there thinking, I need to take a day off. Like I need a hole in the head. I don't have time to take a day off. She goes, Todd, I think it'd be really beneficial. It's all paid for. You can head down there. And I think they're serving lunch, which would have been a bonus for me, So I get on that bus the next week, see Gary Keller speak. He talks about God. He talks about his family. He talks about his son. And I came back up and signed up with Keller Williams that day. That's a long story to tell you about how did I get the 4 deals? Well, all of a sudden I'm in there with people that it was lead generation. Bank owns going on. It took a year to close deals sometimes. I think my longest short sale was 2 years. You just got on the phones and made phone calls and then went door knocking. And I like things hard. So that appealed to my nature. And so it was just a matter of, I was still, I still had some remodel. I had 1 foot over there in the remodel world that I was finishing things up. And I was working at Costco from 4 o'clock in the morning till 10 or 11. And then I was in the office after that, making my cold calls and trying to, finish up my remodels, anything I could do to make a buck until that, first hit of real estate happened, So, it was just, I remember very specifically, there was Anton Stetner, Mindy Newton, Melinda Wade had started there, and Sandy Chambers, and just some Roy Van Winkle, just some rock stars that are, most of them are still with KW to this day. And boy, once you get a family, I didn't want to leave the family. So really, it's the best thing ever anyhow. KW is awesome. That's how I got those 4 deals. And then they kept, going from there.
What do you think the value was in being around some of the people that you mentioned, right, at that point in your career, and also entering the industry in a time that there was only one way to survive, and that was to do the lead gen and to do the right things? Do you feel like that gave you an advantage over the long run in getting in like that?
Yeah, for sure. I really do, Chase. So interestingly enough, I think the second year that I was at Keller Williams, and Bruce could probably speak to this better, they started a program called Bold. And so Sean Kokoska was the original guinea pig, or we were the guinea pigs, and he was the original instructor. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to call people because really I was kind of the big dog. When you build a home, all the subs report to you. You tell them what to do. You run the show. And I've been in construction long enough where, that's kind of there's a hierarchy. Well, now all of a sudden, I've got to make cold calls, and I've got to be ring, ring, ring. Hey, this is Todd with Keller Williams, and I noticed that you had a home come off the market a month or 2 ago. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. I had to be that guy. There was a big shift, but that Bold, I think I ended up taking Bold probably 15 times. And so it took me 3 or 4 times to really get that cemented into my brain of just do what Diana says, which is get your 20 live leads a day, and then the rest of it take care of itself. It really, really does. It's pretty simple.
So you're diving in, you're doing the hard work, right? Like you said, you like things hard. You get the benefit of being around some of these other people that are doing the work and working hard. And you start growing your business, right? 4 in the first year, 12 in the second, and then onward for a few years. And then, as you mentioned, something happened. Something big happened in your world. Tell us about that.
2010, I'm in the business working hard. 2011, 12, and we're starting to see the economy turn around a little bit in 12 and 13, and so everything's going good. And so 2012, we took off to Maui with my son for his graduation. And we actually have pictures of him over there in a neck brace. He dove into a pool because when you're 18 and you're a boy, you're invincible. And I said, son, because, this has happened at a graduation party. He dove into a pool, catching a football, cracked a vertebrae. So there he is. We're 2012 over in Maui with a bunch of friends having fun. There he is in his neck brace, I said, son, God gives you one body. I said, you've got to take calculated risks. You have to look at the whole situation and realize, what would be the worst thing ever for our family? Because we love to play. It'd be to be in a wheelchair and have everybody else walk around and have their lives going on. I said, so you have to be careful. God just gives you that one body. That's it. So 2014 rolls around. My daughter graduates from high school. We have a whole bunch of people. There's probably 20 or 30 of us heading over there. And we get over there. Man, I love Maui. In fact, in 2012, I'd met with a team leader. I had visions of my business being here in Washington. And then my youngest son would be graduating, I think in 2020 or something like that, 2019, my youngest son. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, I'm going to have my business here in Washington. And then I'm going to be able to bounce over to Maui, and I can lead generate in the morning because we're a couple of hours behind. And so I can lead generate there in the morning and still get up and make my family breakfast. And nobody will even know I'm here for a couple of weeks, and I can keep bouncing back and forth. So I'd met with the team leader and kind of lined everything out. I was so excited to have, kind of two different spots. And so 2014, I'm thinking I'm going to meet with this team leader and cement this deal because I'll be back and forth here. My hands will be kind of washed of coaching basketball. He'll go into the high school, the whole works. And so we get over there with all these families, drop off the luggage, grab something to eat, go into the, condo and get everything there. And then we head to the beach. And I still vividly remember, there's nothing better. I love being in shorts. I love the sun. I love the salt water. And so we're running past the signs where it shows the little picture of the human being crushed by the wave, It doesn't apply to me because I'm omnipotent, nothing hurts me. And so we're frolicking around on the beach, and all of a sudden we're going to start doing some body surfing, Then we're all trying to body surf and see who can make it furthest in on the waves. All the waves are coming in and we're body surfing back and forth. And then a couple of waves coming in, I told my buddy, I say, hey, I'm going to take this wave. And he goes, oh no, Todd, there's a bigger one right behind it. Well, my mentality is always bigger, better, faster. Let's go. Let's do this. And so I go, okay. And I said, are you coming? And he goes, no, I'm not coming. I said, okay. And man, Chase, I hit that wave. The adrenaline's popping. I'm up at the very top. And all of a sudden I look down and there's no water down there. And I'm like the human freaking dart that just goes bonk right there. And my whole body just shuts down. I'm in the waves. I can still remember 3 thoughts go through my head. I think, wow, God, is this how I'm checking out? Is this it? And then the second thought is I thought, man, this is how the jellyfish must feel because everything is limp. And it's, how the jellyfish have their little like phalanges or whatever those things just cruising around. The third thought was, wow, somebody better grab me because I can hold my breath for a couple minutes. But this isn't like a TiVo where you can just TiVo the TV and go make yourself a sandwich and then come back and pick up right where you left off. This is literally the waves just keep pounding. And so they're pulling me back. And then I remember the lifeguards come up and grab me and they pull, the lifeguards, they've done this a few times. They come up, they grab me, they pull me back in the waves. They count for a few seconds and then they rush out, because they know how to time the waves properly. And so they get me up there and throw me in the flat board. And my son and a good friend of mine were right there. And they knew full well because he goes, Todd, when I ran over to you and flipped you over, he said, I haven't seen that look in your eyes. And he said, I knew by that look in your eyes that something was wrong. So I said, well, no problem. I'll be back. Good to go tonight. Just give me a little bit. I'm sure it's just something I'll walk it out or rub some dirt on it, And so anyhow, they slapped me to the board and the little lifeguards are there and the paramedics come up and they whisked me away. And that was the start of a new chapter of my life. Yeah.
So Todd, I have to ask, what beach were you at?
McKenna Beach. Well, I think it's Little Beach or Big Beach down at the end.
That shore break there is gnarly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They whisk you off to the hospital, Kahului, I assume. And then, so what happened then?
So they put me in they give me CAT scans and MRIs and all that. And then they say, well, we got to get you over to the Big Island. My buddy comes and they're getting me in the life flight thing. So they get me in the ambulance Barry Gould, a good friend of mine, and he was in there with me, and he comes, and he's praying over me, and I said, guys, I'll be fine. You guys just go out to dinner. I'll be back later today. It'll be totally fine. No big deal. We'll be playing basketball tonight. It'll be fine. And so he's crawling in there, and the two big Samoans or the two big Polynesian guys are sitting in there and so Barry comes up into me, and, I'm strapped to the strap in the ambulance, and he comes crawling up to me. He's praying, and I said, I'll be back soon. Just tell my family I'll be fine. So then they whisked me over to the Big Island, and then I spent the next 17 days, which the reality of the whole situation is, if you think about it, I got an extra 10 days in paradise. It's not typically the 10 days the way you want to spend your 10 days in paradise, but at the same point in time, who gets 17 days in, Hawaii? And it's a great diet program as well, because really, if you can't reach the food, you're just kind of fed what's fed to you. It keeps you thin. My business is always on my mind. Obviously, my family is, and all that stuff. And the first thing I think of, the most positive person, I reach out to Diana Kokoska, call her and leave a message, and she calls me back. And we'd spoke a couple times through the years at different events. I'm very blessed to be, first of all, with my wife, my children, and then I can't leave KW because it's like my second family. I've grown up with these people the last, 10, 12, 13 years. Spent some time over there, and then I came back to Harborview for another 45 days. So
another 45 days at Harborview. Have you always been this optimistic? I mean, you're an optimistic guy.
Bruce, I love Jesus, and this is all just part of the ride. So if you really view it from that lens, the whole thing's a giant game. I'm so blessed in everything in my life.
Now a brief word from our sponsors. Stick around.
Keller Williams Luxury Agents. There's an incredible opportunity waiting for you to elevate and grow your business with KW Luxury Pro. KW Luxury Pro offers earned-in luxury agents the opportunity to elevate your business and secure more referrals by focusing on 3 pillars. 1, the network. Our exclusive relationship and referrals directory connects you with fellow luxury agents around the country for more luxury referral opportunities. 2, the knowledge. Our monthly speaker series brings celebrated business authors, inspiring international speakers, and thought leaders directly to you. Our monthly connection and collaboration series offers the opportunity to learn best practices from fellow Luxury Pro members teaching the playbooks from their own businesses. And 3, the experiences. Our members enjoy unique experiences that go beyond the ordinary. Whether it's touring a $48 million estate with your fellow pro members or going behind the scenes at the Four Seasons private residences, you'll have an experience like no other. Join Keller Williams Luxury Pro today to learn how our members are building meaningful connections, sharing business referrals, and expanding their knowledge in a supportive and collaborative community. For more information, please visit kwluxurypro.com.
So what happened? You get out of Harborview. What was your situation at that point?
First of all, at Harborview, it's fascinating. The experiences that I get to experience at Harborview of just people coming in, seeing me, loving on me. And then also I'm sitting there in Harborview, and I don't know why it hit me, but all of a sudden I thought to myself, because my soul is shining, and then I have a task of literally making their soul shine. How can I lift these humans up from whether it's a doctor, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a guy empty the garbage cans? How can I connect with this human? How can I make their soul room brighter? How can I show interest? I mean, literally it's how to influence people 101, but it's deeper than that, because I'm not after anything. I just want that human to have a better life. And I've taken so many notes and I've written so many chapters of, I remember, Bruce, I get out of the hospital and I'm at home, and it takes me an hour to get to, I know this has nothing to do with real estate, and yet it's so fascinating, just the experiences of, so I'm driving an hour south to Harborview, And I've got 2 doctor appointments and a physical therapy appointment. And my wife's driving me down there, and it's an hour drive, and it's raining and it's irritating. And I'm just like, gee. And then they cancel one of the appointments on the way down. So I'm pissed off at that. And so we're driving down there. And so the guy canceled. So we got some time to burn. So we go into the cafeteria, and we're in the cafeteria, and they have turkey and cranberry sandwiches. And, foods become very important to me because I don't get all the other dopamine hits, So my wife, and this is 8 years ago. And so we go in there, and I go, sweetheart, I need the cranberry and the turkey sandwich. And she goes, okay. We order that. I wheel over to my little area so I can sit there and wait. She brings the sandwich over, and there's no cranberries on it. And I'm like, Tammy, there's supposed to be cranberries on my sandwich. She goes, Todd, they were out of the cranberry jelly stuff. I said, no, hon. I need the freaking cranberries on my sandwich. She goes, Todd, they're out of it. And I don't know why it was in my brain. It just clicks in, and I just suck it up. And I think, wow, I need to get this in my brain that there's some people that have things worse than me. So I just need to suck it up. I get my head back under control. I go up into the physical therapy session. I go and check in. I'm still pissed off, and I'm still irritated. And I'm just kind of grumpy. I turn around, and then the next guy rolls up, and he's missing his feet, and he's only got one arm. And he goes, hey, Sandy, I just drew a little picture for you. And he's got this happy attitude. I was like, he's worse off than I am. Happy attitude. I just wheel over to the corner and just start crying like, get my shit together, Todd. You know what? Some people have it worse than you do. And so just lessons like that all through my life is absolutely fascinating.
I know that the audience is going to be curious, Todd, as you went through this experience, right? This very difficult and challenging experience, and you're learning these lessons as you go along. What did it look like to re-enter your real estate business? And how did you take some of these lessons forward into what it looks like to go back to serving people buying and selling real estate?
Yeah, great question. That's a really great question. So I'm flat on my back. I can't move. And this is probably, 2 or 3 months into, getting back here. And things are just starting to come back. I'm going to yoga. I'm going to physical therapy. I'm trying to do all this stuff. I've still got an assistant that comes to my house. And so I'm making phone calls, trying to figure out how this whole thing fits. I'm like referring stuff out. I've got a gal, Melinda Wade, that was super helpful in that time frame. She was kind of picking up things. I think we closed probably 12 transactions that year, just from referrals and business and humans that I'd known. And I was still cold calling. I had my box, and we'd pull out the expireds, cancels, and fail sale release. I'd pull those things out, and I'd make those phone calls, and she'd take the little notes. I had this little special code on the side of them, and I'd tuck them back in because I had them all throughout the year, and I'd keep shuffling them and call these people. I was just making phone calls, on my bed, just trying to keep stuff lined up and pushing forward. Not that I needed an income there, because I had kind of an income that had that was starting to roll forward. I was just making those phone calls, trying to keep everything moving forward. And then, I'd gone through, I was getting, more and more business because I started to move a little bit more. But there's also these different mind blocks you go into. I didn't want to go back to my office because it's like, you're not the same man that steps in the same river. Because now all of a sudden, I wasn't that guy that was running around, Lance Autoing it up. That wasn't me. I'm stuck in a wheelchair. And so I couldn't get my brain wrapped around, Todd, get your brain out of this egg or whatever it was that I couldn't break out of, This wasn't Todd anymore. It was a different Todd. It took me 2 or 3 years just to get my brain wrapped around that. I still remember the day I'm, doing yoga and physical therapy probably 2, 3, 4 times a week. All of a sudden, I'm down in Bothell and my yoga studio. And one day she's wheeling me across the road this is like probably 3 years into my injury. She's wheeling me across the road. And all of a sudden I can feel I don't know if you guys, as a walkie, you guys probably never notice this, but as a roller, because I'm a roller and you guys are walkies, she's rolling me across the sidewalk, and all the people are looking at me in the cars, and I can feel the bump. They're like these little raised bumps that you never pay attention to until you're feeling them, and I'm feeling these bumps. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, I'm not getting any better. I've kind of hit the wall. And so I got to get my shit together and I got to build my business again. I got to feed my family and I got to support my life. And this is the game now, Todd. So get better at it, because really this is what you're dealt with. And so you need to get your stuff together and move forward. And so for some reason that rings in my brain. I just remember it. And I remember looking at the people and I thought, I don't feel ashamed anymore because I'm damaged, because there's this weird psyche of it's almost like I'm embarrassed to be me. I mean, even like in restaurants, you roll into a restaurant and people look at you and they're looking at you like they don't know whether to move their chair or not look at you or look sideways because you're in a chair. I'm not equating this with what other, people feel like, but all of a sudden it's a feeling of, this is kind of interesting. And I'm embracing this feeling because I've never would have had this feeling. This is something interesting. You ready for this one, Chase? I feel like I'm beating you guys all the time because look at this. I always feel like I'm winning, even when I'm not. You and Bruce, you guys have one experience in life physically. You are walkies and you can run around and do whatever you want. Well, I had 45 years of being a male that could do whatever he want. And if we were playing ping pong, you were leaving or I would make fun of your mother. Until I beat you, I wasn't walking away from ping pong, basketball, pickleball, whatever. I would win or you would leave first. And so I had one life of being just like you guys and being a person that can do whatever he wants in this life and doesn't need anybody to do anything for him. Now, the second portion of my life, I'm in a wheelchair and I get it from a totally different perspective than you guys do. And it's a mind-blowing perspective. Just people looking at you or how they react to you or how they talk to you or how they don't talk to you. It's fascinating to me. Advantage Todd, 2 different perspectives for me, 1 for you guys. And I know that there's different perspectives that you guys experience, yet at the same time, it's really fascinating. Boy, and I know I'm telling stories that don't lead you through to real estate, yet the reality is this is important stuff. I'm down in Seattle and my buddy's dropping me off because I'm going to go speak at a men's luncheon down there. So my buddy drops me off, and this is 6-7 years ago, and I'm whipping through Seattle. I think to myself all of a sudden, I'm buzzing through Seattle. I don't have anything. He dropped me off. He's parking the van. And so I'm buzzing through. All these people are walking around. They could take my phone. They could take my backpack. They could take anything they want off me. And all of a sudden I thought, wow, I've got this vulnerable feeling that I've never had before. And I thought to myself, I wonder what a woman feels like when she gets in an elevator with 2 guys, or she's walking down a dark street after she gets off work. I thought I would have never had that feeling if I would have just been Walkie Todd the rest of my life. I would have just been a wealthy real estate agent that ran around and done what he did, being selfish. And so those perspective or those life experiences, it's fascinating to me. Yeah. So anyhow, I apologize again, Chase.
No, that's really good stuff. And
Todd, this is the real look, mate. Appreciate you being as transparent and talk about perspective, right? I mean, boom, it's hitting me right between the eyes. So going forward, right? I mean, you've continued to grow your business and do business, right? So how many years now have you been confined to the wheelchair?
It's been 9.
9 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So last year you closed 36 transactions.
Yeah.
How are you doing that?
It's always the same, Bruce. It really is. It's just phone calls. I mean, I'd like to say it's something different. And yet the reality is it's just phone calls and then following up with your humans and connecting with your humans. I like to do off-market deals. I don't know, probably a third of my business is off-market. Manufacture my own listings through condoizing. I mean, I just like the game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like to, check in with my people. I have to do a better job. In fact, I have a list of things that I really want to attack with my business. And yet really 30 to 36 transactions a year is a phenomenal life. Now I've started a small team. And so I have, an admin, and then a couple of agents have stepped on, brand new agents. And so that'll bump up a little bit. And my goal is to help them do, whatever their many transactions they want to do. Most of it is accountability, making the phone calls, talk to the humans, follow the little trails, follow up. It's the same thing over and over again. I'd love to say it's something different, yet it's the same thing over and over again. The biggest thing is I don't think we're just not accountable. And so therefore, if you're not that, 1 or 2 or 3% of the humans that can do everything yourself, then really you have to have an accountability partner that you check in with. And for me, it's my goal is to talk with 10 humans a day about real estate. And I know that gives me a really good income.
So Todd, here you are like still outselling the average realtor by 4 or 5 times, right? And you've have this challenge that you went through, but as you mentioned, it offered you this really powerful perspective.
Yeah.
When you think about your career going forward, right, as you look out onto the horizon as it pertains to real estate or anything else, what do you feel most excited about now, having come through a lot of that?
Let's see. Well, I think I'll always do between 30 and 40 transactions a year. My most important thing, obviously, is my wife, and my children will be just fine without them. Or, I mean, not without me, but they'll be just fine in their lives. I want to help them do whatever they want to do. The most important thing is to set up a security for my wife to make sure, because I can't expect her, it takes 3 hours to get me from when we open our eyes at 6:30, I'm done between 9:30 and 10 to I'm a giant Ken doll. So you dress me up, you got to bathe me, go to the bathroom, put all that, the whole thing together, then get me out the door, brush my teeth, the whole works. I'm not usually getting started. I do a coaching call at 7:30 till 8 every morning. We do scripts and dialogues with my small little team. But otherwise, I'm not doing real estate until really, 10, 11 o'clock. Moving forward, I want to continue to do 30 to 40 transactions a year, help my 2 or 3 team members to do the same thing. My goal is probably to be coaching in the future because I loved coaching basketball. That was my favorite. Money's never really motivated me, yet I love to see other people reach their potential and perform. And so I know my numbers so well that if I make 3 hours of phone calls with my little gremlin fingers and stuff like that, I can make 11 to 15 calls in an hour. I can talk to 3 to 4 people. That typically gives me in 3 hours to 4 hours of phone calls. If I'm not on my dialer, I can get between 11 and 15 live people that I'm talking to. Every 40 people, I know that there's a piece of business there. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not next month, but sometimes in 6 years, I list their home if I just keep checking in with them. Sometimes I don't even talk to them about real estate, but I just keep checking in with them. Well, I know every 40 people, there's a piece of business. So I know my numbers so well. And then I just have to, hold my other people accountable to make sure that you're talking to 10 people a day about real estate. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Todd, based on what you know today, if you were to go back and talk to your younger self looking to get into real estate, what would your advice be?
Probably get a coach right away. Right, get a coach, somebody where you want to go, whether it's 2 transactions a month, 5 transactions a month, whatever your goal is, find that coach that's doing that and that can articulate that to you, have it broken down, and then have that accountability that you check in with every single day, that you shoot them through the numbers of saying, hey, these are my numbers. This is how many calls I made. This is how many doors I knocked. Because the first 2 or 3 years of your business, that's really what you have to do is call and door knock. Now, do I make 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 phone calls a day? Not typically anymore. Sometimes I do. Usually I can get the results I want with 5 to 7 live contacts a day. I don't need to do all the other stuff, even though I'm kind of torturous. I do like to make the cold calls and get hung up on, and they're kind of grumbly with you, and then you try to spin it around. It's kind of like fishing. You got your line out there, they take it, you let it run, you reel in a little bit, they go, you pull it back, then keep reeling in, then all of a sudden you get upside the boat, you thump them on the head and pull them in the boat, So I love that fishing of that aspect of the cold calls. And then really more than anything else, get somebody that I'm accountable to. Most humans are just weak. I'm the same. When I know I'm checking in with somebody, I'm going to perform better. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I would, looking back.
I got to say, this conversation today has been a real gift for me. I assume you feel the same way, Chase, and I know our audience is going to really take a lot from this. I just want to say to our listeners, if any of you have any referrals and where are you? Snohomish, Skagit counties primarily?
Skagit, yep. Yep.
Yep, north of Seattle. If you have any referrals, look no further than Todd, and his team will have the contact information in the show notes. So, Todd, thank you, man. We so appreciate you and appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today. This has been awesome.
It was great, man. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Chase. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate your time.
Hang tight. We'll be right back.
The KW Maps coaching vision is for our clients to achieve their goals and fulfill their dreams.
In the last 2 years that I've been the team leader, our market center's grown by 25% in agent count and over 60% in gross commissions earned. If someone was considering getting a Maps coach, I would say quit considering it and go sign up for Maps coaching right now. It'll be the best decision you can make for yourself and your business.
Thousands of KW Maps coaching clients are experiencing high returns on their coaching investment. Many, just like Darren, attribute their successes to the partnership and trust in their coach. You too can feel the impact. Check out getmapsnow.com to learn more. Wow. Boy, that was great conversation. That really was. And talk about giving you perspective. Chase, what do you reckon?
Yeah, my goodness, Bruce. Like, how inspiring is it to hear about Todd and just, the beginning of his story even. And then, of course, what happened to him in Hawaii and certainly like what's happened on the other side. The whole thing is just so incredibly inspiring and certainly not without a tremendous amount of difficulty that Todd had to experience going through that. But, it just strikes me that one of the pieces that really helped him get through that in early on, right? He talked about being in the hospital and being concerned with lifting the spirit of everyone who came in to the room, whether it was the doctor or someone changing out the garbage. I'm sure people coming to see him that felt somewhat distraught over his situation. The focus on others rather than getting so self-absorbed and even the tremendous challenge that he was facing is such a good reminder for all of us. But you can tell that is just who he is, right? Like the energy that he creates for other people around him was certainly an element of his success from start to finish.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that optimism that he has and that gratitude for life. His perspective now around the experiences, the fact that he has different experiences than we can have, him really celebrating that. I got to be honest with you, I struggle to believe that he wasn't a people person prior to getting into real estate. I think that's amazing. And it puts in perspective, right, the challenges because, we talk about this is a tough market, right? We've got over 1.5 million realtors fighting over fewer transactions than we've done in over 30 years. And yet, you look at Todd with the challenges that he has, he's still going out there. And as you said, he's doing 5-6 times as many transactions as the average realtor.
Yeah. I mean, think about what he shared there, Bruce. I mean, here he is like partially paralyzed in a hospital bed making prospecting calls because he knew that he needed to for his family and for himself and, to move forward, to push things forward, to push his business forward. And, if you have an excuse that's anything less than that, then, learn from Todd.
Yeah.
Because he did it anyways. And not that it just happened immediately and it was easy for him. It was anything but that. He, through the kind of the mental challenges and shared some of those stories that helped him kind of work through some of that. But I wrote down something he said that I thought was so good and it's valuable for anybody, regardless of any challenge that you face. His is very unique, but we all have our own giants to slay, right? And Todd kind of got to this point where he told himself, he said, hey, this is the game now, so get better at it. And I thought, gosh, whether it's a market shift, whether it's disruption in the industry, whether it's something to do with how we're paid in commissions, right? This is the game now, so focus on getting better at it is really great advice. And it's what Todd did. And now he sells more than most realtors on the planet in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And to him, like you said, that's almost an advantage. It is an advantage because of the perspective it offers. Just such a cool story, Bruce.
Yeah. I think that's a t-shirt. This is the game now.
Yeah. Get better at it.
Exactly. You know, I liked his advice, right, to his younger self: get a coach.
Yeah.
Right. And be held accountable. It's that accountability. And you heard it. He and by his own admission, he knows his numbers really well.
Oh my gosh. To the number.
Yeah. So when you think about mastery around the way he does business, which, you know, he's a prospector, you know, he makes a game of it. His analogy to fishing, right? It put me out on the river when he said that, right? I'm thinking about what that's like. You know? And for me, it's usually the fish wins. But, it was just such a refreshing interview. And I think it puts it all in perspective for us.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things he mentioned being excited about in the future is doing some coaching, and he's doing that with some members of his team. And I suspect he'll do that even beyond his team, Bruce. And what an opportunity for someone to be coached by someone like Todd, who not only has a heart for it, but has the experience behind, you know, a tremendous amount of value to offer somebody to keep them consistent around what needs to happen in order for them to succeed at whatever level they choose. I mean, I have no doubt that Todd is and will be an incredible coach to others, and certainly an inspiration to all of us, Bruce, without a doubt.
Next week's Northern Lights guest is Jason Abrams, Head of Industry and Learning at Keller Williams Realty International. We'll see you next week on The Real Look. This podcast is produced by Marissa Frost. Visit KWNWR.com to access the show notes from today's episode. Head over to Apple, Google, or Spotify, or really any major streaming platform to subscribe, and don't forget to leave us a review. Thanks again for listening to The Real Look.